What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. My favorite day of the week, Wednesday. We got Mike Ryan. We got another victory to talk about, another victory to preview. Georgia Tech in Atlanta. I look like Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber. I chipped my tooth eating a sandwich before
you did?
the show.
I didn't. Oh my God. What a reveal. I had no idea. Wait, you chipped your tooth on a salad?
On a sandwich. It was just like a sandwich at Carrot Express. It was not
I don't know.
even hard.
I didn't notice that.
I don't know what to tell you. It was eating with my dad, and I just noticed that it was like I swallowed like half my tooth. So, the show is the show must go on. We're here at 2:30.
It's a great surprise.
Yeah, I would have been late and postponed so I can get this fixed, but the people always get on us for being late, being on Cuban time. So, we're playing hurt. I apologize to the female fans.
You can totally pick it up on that. I thought it would be such that it's subtle enough, but nope, you can totally.
If you're a dentist and you'd like us to promote your services, hit me up in the comments. But the show must go on.
A sandwich, dude. Do you feel kind of soft on a sandwich?
It was like, it was a impossible burger, is what it was.
Oh my God, that's such a sad way to go out.
With tostone, I think the tostone got me because there's tostones in it.
You're down bad.
Got me.
You're down bad.
Yeah,
up the calcium. What are we doing?
Yeah, I've been breaking it since my first communion. I was in second grade. I've never gotten the crowns, so like 5 G's I think to get the crowns. So I've just been fixing it and breaking it. I got to interview Restrepo tomorrow for UM. I got to interview Tyler.
Yeah, you got to go to like an overnight dentist.
I'm gonna look like an idiot.
You're gonna wait. No, you got to get.
No, I'm trying to get it fixed. I got somebody in Kendall going to take care of me. Good. We'll see.
Get one of those like Freddie. Get the Freddie Freemans.
Yeah,
get the Freddie Freeman. Just like go all out and take the
Reigns.
opportunity to have it. Yeah, fix your teeth up.
We'll
Do
see.
the affluent Samoan wrestler thing. As soon as you make it big, fix the teeth.
We'll expense it on for Canes Inside the company.
No, it won't go that far. No, I think this is actually better for business. Actually, this could be your thing. You got a trademark look now.
Hey, but listen, it is game day, is game week, Victory Wednesday. It's our 9th Victory Wednesday here. So a lot to talk about, a lot to celebrate with this Duke win. And then Georgia Tech, our buddy Cam called it a house of horrors over the years. It's been a place where Miami's had some tough games, some good games. And we'll see how it goes this Saturday. But listen,
Pete, hop in.
I was about to hop him in.
Pete, hop in.
We got to get a good smile here.
Hey, man, that's a beautiful hat.
Thank you. I was literally going to tell you this hat is amazing if you want to plug it.
Yeah.
Plug it right here.
Yeah. My buddy's over at Daily. If you remember, it's this great sneaker shop and great vintage shop in the back. It's in Allapattah next to the old Las Rosas location. Great shoes, but also they have their own merch, and they had this drop. Do you remember those mascots? Like that was like a big like University of Miami thing. People would put them on the car, the car antennas. Yeah. And so it's got like that classic DMX.
The DMX, yep. RIP.
Yeah, that's it's a great looking hat. They did this Miami specific drop, so I wanted to give them love. They gave me a handful of hats. Wanted to give some to my Canes Inside brothers.
Appreciate it. This will be on the Ibis Ventures for $474.
I did pull one for our good friend, the Ibis Vintage. I definitely pulled one for him.
So what's up? What's going on?
Listen, D, I've had a similar situation with the tooth. I think I was telling you before the show. I took an elbow in basketball on a Friday afternoon.
That's a good story.
At the Wellness Center.
That's it.
And I was making my local TV debut. I was going on TV on Sunday night with Will Manso.
I remember that
on Channel 10. Our family dentist, Dr. Fisher. Shout out to Dr. Fisher was out of town. And he had to pull some strings, and I had to go in Saturday morning to get my tooth fixed. And it's still giving me issues to
But
this
at
day.
least he got a good story behind it. Like I caught a bow in the face, and I took it like a man.
Yeah,
like, you didn't chip it on a veggie sandwich.
I was gonna say, D always says how the veganism, makes him stronger and tougher mentally and all this stuff. That you shouldn't have revealed that one.
His bones and teeth are brittle now.
I always say that our teeth are like plant eaters, right? We don't have sharp teeth like sharks for eating meat. And then my teeth are busted on.
That's why you go medium rare minus.
That's right. Man, I'm so mad we didn't go to get a spro with Tessitore before the game.
Yeah, I mean, you were drenched. That was some weather, huh? Hey, yeah, House of Horrors. You were trying to set up this game. I think you could say that pretty much for every ACC opponent that we've had. We've had bad moments, and I think for the University of Miami, it's been a great year for bucking trends. And we flirted with it last week, but we mentioned it on the last show. It's like the last big curse outside of winning a natty for this program is can we avoid the dumb one that always seems to get in our way from getting to that game in Charlotte? So far, so good. They responded. They made adjustments. Damn near threw up a 60-burger. Insane for a game that was a 1-point game in the fourth quarter. But this was one, along with Louisville, that you circled, not just because of, and a lot of people are triggered these days, the broadcast for this game and College Game Day, when they profile this game, you want to talk about a house of horrors.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be showing that play over and over and over again. This has been a great redemption arc for Mario Cristobal. It'd be nice to end that game with a knee.
And look, Pry coached with him at Alabama. They've coached the same offensive line, so they got history there. A lot of storylines. We'll see if Haynes King plays. Who knows? We're trying to get info. We've been digging deep on our sources.
I can't even make a prediction on this game or talk about it accurately because I've watched a little bit of Georgia Tech without Haynes King, and there is a precipitous drop off there. They become a little bit more one-dimensional. This quarterback, while certainly a mobile threat, not nearly as dynamic. You think about that Hail Mary that was totally born out of Haynes King, his pocket awareness, his athleticism to roll outside, and then you had receivers go downfield and just a horrible defensive breakdown where an All-American lets a receiver get behind him. But that's all born out of Haynes King and his playmaking. And that's exactly the type of quarterback that you need to have if there is a talent deficiency between teams and you're trying to be a super dog and pull off a big upset. A veteran that, by the way, is undefeated in his career against the University of Miami in 2 different schools. That was always what worried me about this game. There's all sorts of mystery surrounding his availability here. I think there's a huge difference in the type of experience we'll have with this game, Pete, because I'm a huge Haynes King guy. Moxie, toughness, the fact that he puts his head down and he goes in there and gets extra tough yards that are necessary to sustain these long drives that keep Miami's prolific offense off the field. So when it comes to handicapping this game, that's number one with a bullet. I can't really make heads or tails of this game without Haynes King in it.
Yeah, and it's funny, though. You look at the numbers I was looking at the other day from that game last year. Haynes King was 12 of 25 in that game and had like 80 yards passing before the 74 yards on that last drive. So Miami had done a good job containing him. We understand the offense is way more prolific this year. You referred to him as Brent Pry earlier. That's Virginia Tech's coach. It's Brent Key.
Brent Key.
You know, what are the chances
on,
there's 2 Brents coaching in the ACC? That's pretty interesting there. But
I don't know what I'd do without you, Pete.
Yeah,
You've been doing it since Brian Kelly and Chip Kelly back in 2017.
And you were doing Ja'Cory Harris and Ja'Cory Brown a lot last year, which that was. We're over that one.
Well, that's that vegan diet. It messes with the brain.
It runs in the family. My dad for years called Vince Wilfork Butch Woolfolk, and I always wondered what that was. And I found out that Butch Woolfolk was an old player.
I'm going to change one of my DTs in CFB 25.
Oh, look, we have a question from Johnny Lagoon.
There you go.
Saw him out in the Florida State game. How you doing, Johnny? He says, anyone see Thomas Gore? The great Tom Gore is on Georgia Tech. Will he share Guidry's defense? Listen, the book's out on Guidry's defense a bit anyways.
I don't think you need to rely on espionage.
No, listen, I still believe in Guidry. I know it's been a rough go, but I truly do still believe in him. And people, look, we have a lot of people asking for changes at certain positions, and obviously with injuries, there's going to be more guys getting snaps. But we'll see what happens, man. There's still some opportunities here for them to get things together. But remember, last year the front was a lot different because Miami had so many injuries that what they're doing is a lot different than what they were doing, especially up front this year. So you have a lot of different personnel there.
Well, let's talk about the Lance Guidry discourse, because it's not a Miami football season if Miami fans aren't firing a coordinator. So usually it's both. So I guess we've upgraded. But Lance Guidry, who I believe to be a good defensive coach, and I know for a fact his aggressive man-up style, I've heard Mario Cristobal say to boost. That's a type of style you need to play. The elite teams, they go man up. Miami is going to run into teams, hopefully, in the college football playoff that will challenge their receivers to make plays. It's just a reality of college football at the top flight. You have to play man up. However, most of those teams making that decision, they're not often attached by the most prolific offense in school history at the time. So I think I share a general sentiment here, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, D. that maybe more of a complementary style behooves this team right now. You don't get many opportunities to legitimately be in the mix for a national title. And maybe we're just doing a little too much defensively.
It's funny, like we go back and forth. We were saying we were doing too much before. Then you go against Duke, and I thought we were very simple, both playing only man coverage, and the safeties were just kind of stagnant. It was very easy to see what we were doing, and you saw Duke. They got rid of the ball quick. They knew exactly where to go. They knew exactly where their man beaters were. And even though we could have gotten pressure, the ends were beating their guys. The ball was out so quick and with such decisiveness, knowing where they were going to go before the play even happened, that the pass rush really didn't impact the game. And we saw what happened. Receivers made a couple plays, and you got Duke hitting the biggest game of their season on offense.
One of the things that we highlighted last week is that Miami's due for some game-changing turnovers, and that's really when, like, man, that's been a real missing element. And we put a lot of it on the D-line, those big momentum-shifting type of plays. With this offense, if you get the ball right back, that's almost an automatic 14-point swing. So part of complementary football is getting timely turnovers, and I do think that we're going to ascend to the mean there a little bit. But as we made light of it before, the book is out on Lance Guidry's defense. You're seeing how teams are attacking these linebackers in space, pulling a running back into motion. Everybody's heart sinks a little bit when they see Kiko try to follow a running back that goes into motion. They're going to consistently challenge these DBs to make tackles in space, and we have time and time again proven them that you go ahead and keep doing that. We're not going to step up there. But there are ways to hedge against that, more conservative approaches to defense. And I gotta tell you, D, it's a pretty compelling argument when you look at the offense. It's not even something that has to do with the defense. Just hold the opposing team to below 35 points. And if you give me that promise for the rest of the season, you gotta like Miami's chances to go all the way. So how do we get closer to that? Is it by continuing playing the way that we're playing? Maybe shifting personnel a little bit, because I can be talked into that if that's a possible solution. But we had several weeks sample there where teams were attacking Miami a very specific way, that it would be the very definition of insanity if we didn't change things up. So there is a change coming, but it might have been legislated by injury. And is that the solution? New personnel coming in? Will all of a sudden this defense look a lot better if you have different personnel, maybe personnel that's a little bit more capable of making a tackle in the open space? What can you tell me about the injuries that Miami sustained, what that means for the new personnel coming in, and if that might actually be a better fit for how Lance Guidry likes to play straight up, if he had all the talent in the world?
Look, I know you're not saying this, but you never want to lose a player to injury, especially a guy that's playing as much as Jadis Richard. Wasn't all perfect, but the guy was playing a lot for a reason. It's not like they just put him there because he was a nice guy. So you're going to get more Zaquan Patterson. He's a great tackler. He's young. He's going to have some mistakes. We've made mistakes in the secondary anyway, so I guess you're not losing as much there. My big thing with the defense is, if you look at Virginia Tech, remember that game? We were ready to boat race them and really get a lead on them and then hunt and put their offense in a position they didn't want to be in and just get after the quarterback. Yeah. That was the interception. It
was a bad call that preceded the interception, right, bad hold, and that game's over if that hold call doesn't happen. Then Cam does what Cam costs of doing business with Cam Ward. You're going to have to deal with the occasional red zone turnover.
Right. And then Duke, I thought they made one of the best coaching decisions I've seen all season when they really sped up on us out of nowhere. And we had 10 men on the field at one time. I forget what play it was. It was a big chunk play where we only had 10 men on the field. I think Barrow went out. I want to say Barrow went out. One of the defensive tackles went out. No one replaced him. So we were short of man. They got a huge chunk play. They scored. It was the easiest drive of the season for them. They went right up and down the field because we're so used to teams trying to milk the clock against us that when they sped up, we were like, what the heck's going on? So I don't know if that's something that teams might employ selectively going forward. But that game was about to be a game that we really were able to be in a position on defense to get after the quarterback and not worry about being in a shootout. That didn't go that way. Cal, 2 halves. So Duke, in many ways, 2 halves. It's just, we've seen spurts. We just haven't seen any kind of consistency.
So do you get more consistent efforts with this personnel, or does this personnel require maybe a change in approach? Lance Guidry is a smart coach, and he's not like one of these coaches. We've had previous DCs that stay married to their system. it was pointed out to me by our good friend David Lake that he switched up the defense last year. So he has shown an ability to pivot. Maybe he's taken another approach there. We're over here pounding the table for change up the defense because you have this potential title winning offense. Maybe he says, let me keep going down this road with this defense because I have that very same offense that you're saying I should go more conservative with. So I imagine this is a smart coaching staff. You saw what they did after the bye. It totally changed the running game. They changed some personnel, got more out of it. Player responded. Damian Martinez in particular, who was on the most recent episode of Storm Sessions.
Check it out on Canes All Access. It's also on Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. Support me if you can. Support the show. It's a great show. Sit down interview with Damian Martinez, learn about his background, his love of country music, a lot. His Mexican background, a lot of cool stuff with Damian Martinez. He gets out of his shell a little bit. Great kid. Storm Sessions. Thank you.
So I'm just curious, and maybe the quarterback that lines up under center for Georgia Tech will help inform how Lance Guidry goes about game planning it, because they are different. Haynes King is a little bit more consistent with his arm from what I've seen in brief glimpses looking up at a secondary TV that's on mute. But I think that if we can filter out the nonsense of fire Lance Guidry, like, come on, look at yourself. You wanted to fire Shannon Dawson last year, and Guidry was the coach that you couldn't, oh my God, LSU wants him. We can't let this happen. So let's keep in mind where we are right now and the fact that this offense does give you a margin for error and has all season long. Trusted coaches, Mario Cristobal this season in particular has not given you a reason to not trust him. And Pete, I'm curious, as we have this more philosophical discussion about defensive approach, you know, Lance Guidry is held in high regard. He's not a dummy when it comes to these things. It may seem like it's stubborn, but as D-Money pointed out, guys were playing for a reason. With the shift in personnel, what do you think that puts on the table for Lance Guidry in this defense?
Just a bigger picture thing here, and people always call for changes when it comes to personnel, and we always are looking for the shinier object, the guy who's not playing, who's sitting on the bench. And as bad as things have been at certain times this year, certain spots, I personally think Guidry has trust issues with certain guys, and I'm not going to name guys by name, but I think there's a certain element when you are a coach, right, that you almost you do know better in certain things, and I think Guidry might feel like he knows better. Like if he puts certain guys out there in his mind, the results might be even worse than what we've seen.
I want to seize on something that you just said right there, because Guidry is working off of more data than we do when we're sitting in the stands or watching the game on TV. Trust issues don't necessarily always come up during a game. It's what you do in practice may predict what you can do in a game. So, D-Money, in your opinion, out of this new crop of guys that are going to be called on to make impact plays, how does a coaching staff see some of these players? I know you said Zaquan Patterson is a sure tackler, can make the occasional mistake. You have really good sources. What can you tell me about how the staff feels about the players that they're about to lean on?
Well, it's not just players that are new. It's also players that are old in new spots. So Mish Powell then moves to nickel. I saw him in spring going at it with the Xavier Streppel, who, as we know now, is the best receiver in the Atlantic Coast Conference
and school history.
And school history.
Bolitnikov.
We talked about it. I'm glad you're on board.
No, definitely Bolitnikov. You stack up his numbers against anyone's in the nations. He's not as sensational, certainly when you enter pro prospects into the equation, but I mean, the Bolitnikov Award doesn't really. That was what
I said the other day.
It doesn't take into account pro prospects. No. This isn't like a CFP thing that Jordan Travis is all of a sudden out and you don't think that team can make it. You look at the numbers,
and he's going to be a pro too, not maybe top 10 pick, but you're right. You're right. It's about how you are as a college player. So Mish Powell battled him all spring. You're not going to get better competition than that. He had his moments. I think part of the reason on Mish Powell at nickel is not because Mish Powell isn't a natural nickel, which I don't think he is. It's more you lose him at safety. We saw his interceptions. He's got 4 interceptions. That's not a small amount.
But nickel is such a undervalued in the eyes of the sports fan. I know the NFL is well ahead of this. And like nickel corner is a hugely important position. In many respects, it's more important than an opposite cornerback on the other side that has an entire side of the field to himself. Mish Powell has a key attribute that you'd love to see in a nickel cornerback, which is experience, and he's a smart player. instinctual too. And a lot of that is being able to be in the right place at the right time. He showed in his time at Washington and during the time at Spring, when those battles, I remember them, with Xavier Restrepo. That was a fun little battle that those two players had. If I put those two names in a vacuum, who's a better player? Xavier Restrepo, almost certainly. Mish Powell would often get the better of Xavier there. So he has some pretty interesting attributes to have that extra responsibility on him. And he's a leader. He's a team guy, vocal. You've spoken to him. He can handle that. The younger guys is really what I'm worried about, and the cascading effect that might have on our depth, where there might be names called upon that aren't the sexiest first names that go to front of the mind. Are there other guys? Because you're always so good at saying, like, keep an eye on Blunt. The Blunt game's coming. The JoJo game is
Which probably hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened, but you're going to keep plugging away
on the field.
Yeah, but but I'll give you OJ Frederic. That's become one of our most consistent defensive backs.
Yeah, that's been a godsend.
And you were banging the drum for him. So is there a name that might ascend here with this new opportunity?
Well, like I said, it's a reshuffling. So, I mean, it's amazing. You really missed Corey Couch and Jaden Davis last year. Forget how perfect they were for that nickel spot. We talked about Miami really wanted to fill. To your point about how important it is, we really wanted to fill that spot in the portal. We just fell short. Thought we had it a couple times, but those things fell through. Ended up with the situation we have now. One little silver lining, and again, I know you're asking for new players, and I'm giving you old players, but Daryl Porter playing more outside corner, I think it helps us on the outside a little bit, because Daryl Porter, not a natural nickel. So him playing outside corner, I'm sure he's happy about it, even though he's not happy about Jadis Richard getting hurt and all that. I think Damari Brown down the road will be a candidate at that nickel spot. He was probably going to fill that role.
That was a plan, yeah. As I understood it, that was a plan. I know we were all entertaining. What do we do with Mish? A lot of it was dependent on who do we trust at safety, which we had a lot of questions about.
But you could see Stafford, you could see Robbie Washington. It's not off the table. There's just not enough. You eventually run out of guys. There's no guys.
All right, so talk to me about Robbie Washington. And I know, Pete, this is a player that you've kind of fixated on in terms of like body composition, God-given abilities. There's a lot to like there. But does this play into players that you may not trust just yet? That has to be the thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he made the switch it was mid-season, right? I mean, this was early in the season. This is something he's tinkered with before, but he made the switch mid-season. And I think he's someone who's coming along for them. But and we understand what his talent level is and what the potential is there. But you know, it's tough because you throw him out there and look, if he gets beat, if he misses an assignment and they score a 60-yard touchdown, then it's not like that's not happening already. So that's why it's like, I understand why the fans are sit here and like, well, listen, we're already getting torched, right? But there's also an element of like, let's not kill the guy's confidence right away either, right? Let's put him in a situation where is probably, you know, best for maybe you have 4 corners out there. Maybe it's a 3rd and 20. Maybe he gets you got to start working him in the mix somehow, I think. But
let me give you an example of what the issue is. Sam Shields, 19 interceptions in the NFL, made a Pro Bowl, won a Super Bowl. I mean, major league pro player. His rookie year with the Packers, he was a Super Bowl caliber player. We know that because he started in the Super Bowl.
He was outstanding.
He was probably the best player in that NFC Championship game, helped him get to the game.
And would be held up along with other players examples as to why our staffs were so bad. How do you not develop this talent?
And by the way, shout out to Coach McGriff. I know he wanted to do it. He told me himself when Shields was a freshman. I heard it from Crime Dog's mouth himself. He said, I want Shields on defense. Took a few years, got him as a senior. But the point is, he was a senior when he made the move. Washington's a younger player. His senior year was not that good at Miami. He was undrafted for a reason. He was up and down, a lot of mistakes, not because he wasn't trying, but just because he was raw.
It's a very difficult position to be raw at too, because it's all about positioning, pounding the tape. It is along with offensive line, the key positions of development outside of the quarterback position, which goes without saying.
Yeah, and experience, knowing how to play the ball and knowing how to avoid penalties. So if Shields, who I think moved, if I recall, you guys correct me in the comments, he moved earlier than Washington did here as far as before the season, and he was older. And even with all that, he wasn't very good. He had a lot of mistakes. He went undrafted. The next year, he was Super Bowl caliber corner. So the development was a rocket ship. Yeah. But the first year was rough. So a guy like Robbie, it's going to be even more of a learning curve because he's younger. It's later in the process. And who knows if he has that Pro Bowl talent within him. But if it took that much for Sam, it's a problem.
So we've talked a lot about this defense in roundabout ways. If you could give a prediction on what you think Lance Guidry's what path he may go down.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So I figured out, actually, I didn't figure it out. Someone in the comments has alerted me to the issue with Lance Guidry's defense. Our guy Ghost and Von Donaldson. DJ Volume playing Boom Boom Pow in the second quarter of the game almost ruined us. Thank God for the 94-year-old Navy veteran.
Amazing point, because dead on with that got the crowd back into it. Boom Boom Pow. I must have missed that one. Maybe I ran into the bat. It was like the low point of the game. Goes to Von Donaldson. Like, in terms of efficiency, what a great poster. Now, Pete, I don't know if you've had the same trouble I've had. Maybe you're further away, but it's hard to look at D-Money when he's delivering the takes.
No, every time he turns here, it's actually.
I don't look like a football guy with this.
You look like a hockey guy.
A little bit,
all
right.
You know what would have helped is if you went to the Dayland Dining Pavilion and you went to a restaurant that wouldn't chip your tooth on a sandwich.
No, those croquetas are butter soft. The best croquetas in Miami. That is Islas Canarias in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion. Some call it the food court, but it's a little elevated, a little higher class than that. Once Islas moved in, it was the food court before Islas moved in. Now it is the dining pavilion. And by the way, a special event. Pete, pull it up. We have croquetas with Santa Monday, November 25th, 11 a.m.
It's a huge get.
To 1 p.m.
Huge get.
It was better. Straight from.
He's one of the most famous people on the planet.
They said we can't recruit the North Pole down here. Islas Canarias went up and recruited in the North Pole, brought in Santa, the new play area by JCPenney. So they've renovated the play area. They're kicking up Dayland Mall a couple notches, new play area. So to celebrate that, you bring an unwrapped toy. You get the first 100 children in line get a gift bag with a Lego mini build. Plus, you're benefiting the Amigos for Kids toy drive. Give, get, have fun. What's better? Plus, Islas Canarias is bringing the croquetas, the best croquetas in the world, hands down.
I like to lay out croquetas instead of cookies because I feel like he gets cookies and milk everywhere else. I just give him a little cortadito and some croquetas. I'm like, this will take care
of
it.
By the way, I figured it out. I figured it out looking at these pictures, and like, this isn't a slight in any way. We've been trying to figure out the closest comparison for Elijah Lofton's body type. He's built like a croqueta.
An Islas croqueta.
Yeah, but certainly a croqueta you would chip your tooth on. That's not a buttery soft croqueta.
It's stout. It's stout though, and it's versatile.
You could see a path where Elijah Lofton becomes an absolute national sensation because he does things at that size with very little precedent. We've tried to come up with comps. I don't really have, like, Mike Tolbert, Jim Kleinsaucer I invoked one time. I don't have a lot of comps for what Elijah Lofton does. And even Tolbert, he was more of a hybrid, but he was certainly more stout and soft.
Right.
This dude is a physical specimen.
And he wasn't running routes. Tolbert wasn't out there routing up DBs.
No.
Like we saw Lofton. The thing is, people have not seen Lofton run routes. They saw the one long one. Emery threw him where he was wide open. But we saw him in camp.
Dude.
It was all receiver.
It was incredible. He was Miami's most consistent receiver.
The closest thing that I can think of is Charles Clay when he was at Tulsa.
That's a great comp, dude.
I just think that Clay was probably a little taller than him, but the way they used him and Clay, Clay was they were handing him the ball. He was a running back over there, I want to say. He got the ball in the backfield a lot and obviously became like an H-back tight end in the NFL. But to me, that's what he could be. But remember, go back and watch him at Tulsa, and he was a beast at Tulsa.
How's this for a name? Delaney Walker.
Delaney Walker. I think we've talked about that one before. Yeah.
Look at this. How about this comp? We did the croqueta comp. Johnny Lagoon talking about Isla still. The mojo pork and kimchi croqueta is not to be messed with. You want to talk about versatility, like what Lofton brings you. You have mojo pork plus kimchi from the peninsula of Korea. That's like you're bringing different elements to the game. Just like Elijah Lofton can run routes, he can catch one-handed, he can block as an inline blocker, a collision blocker at fullback, running with the ball, which we saw here today. Returning kicks. Yeah. Returning kicks.
Crazy amount of comments on the hats. This is crazy.
Can you
plug it again for those who missed it.
I appreciate Daly for hooking us up.
A couple text messages about it too. Actually.
Yeah, everyone loves this hat. I wish you could see it in this god awful lighting that I deal with. I don't get the Peter Ruiz crazy peeper lighting that you got, but you can see all the detail on Peter's hat right there. Yeah, great guys in Allapattah. Daily. Some of you guys know them from IG because they got this great IG page. You see some shoes that they have available. You strike while the iron's hot. That's usually how the kick game goes. But they've got a great vintage shop in the back, and they come out with their own drops. Great guys too. Shout out to Jonathan.
Shout out to Jonathan. And yeah, man. So what's going on, Pete? Give us something. You're out here. You're out here.
I mean, I don't see the Lofton, David and Joe.
I don't see that one either.
There, Cali can. I think that's probably the furthest comparison.
I actually see more Herndon than Njoku. Am I crazy for that?
Pete said it.
Yeah. I mean, Herndon was taller, but Herndon did a lot of that same stuff in terms of H-back blocking and, coming across formation.
I'll defend my guy, Cali Kane here. So Njoku, one of the things that really made him good, especially when you watch his high school tape, was you just throw him the ball and he's going to make something happen with it as a tight end. Not every tight end is a run after the catch guy like that, where they're almost like Njoku's almost like a running back with the ball in his hands, a longer version of a running back, but he had lower body strength. He had explosiveness. He had balance. He could break tackles. I think to that play against Duke, his last year before he went pro, where he broke a bunch of tackles, went all the way. Lofton has some of that, where you give him the ball, it's not just he's going to fall forward. He's going to make guys miss. He's going to break tackles, and he can make big plays, as you saw in that kick return, which I don't know how many fullback / tight ends are getting that kind of
Alex Mirabal, I listened to the post game, gave that play so much love, because that is not a play anyone talks about. They got that ball at midfield, because you saw like the read that Lofton made on the ball. You knew he was going to look that thing in the entire time and get that ball, not miss a stride, not think about where he was going. I'm like, they messed up. This is such a bad play. Not even just like the principles of kicking a squib in that situation, which I struggle to wrap my head around. But you can't kick it to that guy. They just see some big dude that they think is going to bumble around with the ball. Wrong guy. Played yourself. Lofton is kind of a one-of-one, and maybe the best comp that I've seen, even though totally different base skill sets. Taysom Hill's core discipline was quarterback, but in terms of versatility and struggling to have a comp for Taysom Hill in terms of making an impact, let's draw up and design plays for this guy, because no one has an answer for him, because no one's quite seen him. Well, the crazy thing about Elijah Lofton is, as we struggle to find player comps for him, and they're all great comps, they're all guys that went on to have good careers in the NFL, is what I think what's going to happen with Elijah Lofton is he is going to be the standard bearer that people get compared to, because I think his time here at the University of Miami will be that fruitful. And he's such an exciting build and style of play that the nation is going to get behind this player once the offense opens up more for him and he gets more opportunities and he becomes more of a focal point. I imagine Shannon Dawson is going crazy in his head with scenarios on how to involve this guy. And it's not a coincidence that we're seeing his impact in the game grow and grow as the season goes on, because you want to talk about approach to practice. This dude is an absolute dog. Cut from the cloth of Ruben Bain and Mark Fletcher, leadership guys that want it and are playing for the right reasons.
No, Deebo Samuel's a guy who Cam Ward's compared him to. I don't think that's the comp, but just like you said, one of one. Deebo comes along and everybody's trying to be the next Deebo after him, but he was the first one. I could see something like that where everybody's looking for the next Elijah Lofton, as you mentioned. Charles Clay wanted to get to that one. Pete, that you dropped. People don't realize this. 2007, coming out of Arkansas, we recruited him at Miami. I remember we offered him. He was one of those guys that the profile pick was like a shadow. So he's like, why are we offering this guy? Who do we miss on? I think we just missed on a bigger recruit like Charles Clay. This guy sucks. Offer somebody with a picture in their profile. Ended up being good. That happens sometimes.
Arkansas had a very innovative offense when they had the wild hog. They had Felix Jones, Darren McFadden.
He went to Tulsa. He was from Arkansas. Yeah, he was from Little Rock.
But you know why he probably went to Tulsa from Arkansas is there might have been duplication, because a guy that was playing tight end and H-back there when they had those running backs there was Peyton Hillis, a future Madden cover guy. And that's another possible comp in terms of like being a load, hard to bring down. Didn't necessarily see the field as well as Elijah Lofton made, just given what I've seen from his proclivity in the passing game. But look, they ran a play, a fullback dive, a simple fullback dive with Elijah Lofton. And that's a play inherently you're going to run right into contact. And it rolled right off of him. He is going to be such a weapon for a team that is already superlative when it comes to short yardage distance. Just you get in, you try to defend Miami, you try to defend the Miami Hurricanes in a short yardage situation, and they have Cam Ward, Damian Martinez, and Elijah Lofton in that backfield. That is a lot of things that you have to prepare for in that short yardage situation. That's a lot of options for your offensive coordinator.
And don't forget about the tight ends.
Yep.
Because you have Cam McCormick there to block. He can peel off and you could throw it to
What is
him.
it, 3 touchdowns on 4 catches?
Yeah, he's a touchdown machine right now. He's getting his money's worth for coming back. You still have Lofton. Riley Williams had the long catch. I was talking to somebody who is in the college football business, let's say, who's very familiar with our personnel. And he said Miami's tight ends might be the best in the country. When you go 1 to 4, Arroyo, Riley Williams, Elijah Lofton, McCormick, length, strength, ability to catch, run with the catch, all those guys.
It's a great room. Like, separate McCormick because, he's damn near 30 years old. So I'm going to exclude him from the NFL prospects. He might make the NFL.
Said he thinks he'll make it.
I think he's a good blocker and he's dependable. Like, those guys have a shelf life, but like they have roles carved out for them. But for the purposes of this discussion, we mentioned when Riley Williams' grandfather was in our comments. I genuinely think Miami right now, presently, has 3 first-round tight ends in that room. And that room, if you've walked into it, one of the names has been redacted, but tight end U for a reason. And I think that will be almost a certainty. We're going to invoke tight end U quite a bit over the next few years.
Yeah, the Browns have not been good to you with people you can cheer for.
The Browns have not been good to me, period. But we've moved on. We've closed that chapter in our life, and I think I'm becoming
Hillis cover out of it.
Yeah, got that. I think honestly, the only thing that stirs up fandom when I watch the pro football game now is Baker Mayfield, because I had such an affinity for Baker because he came in and was everything the Browns hoped for, and then they promptly showed him the door. But he's such a gamer. He's so fun. And as you know, I likened his athleticism to Steve Young earlier in the year. So I am as irrational a Baker Mayfield stan as there can be. I was really impressed with what he did on Monday night. You want to talk about the odds being stacked against you. It was a great performance. I'm really pissed off at Todd Bowles for not trusting him. You got to go for 2 in that spot, Pete. Did you see, or you're not watching the NFL?
I watch Texans games.
He was watching African Junior League soccer or something.
No. What was that, Monday night?
They don't do Monday night. They don't do Monday night football. Is there Monday night football? Is that a thing?
You don't like the John
football?
Monday night? You don't like that clip?
Yeah,
Monday night.
That one was good. But
does soccer have like a primetime games like during the week, or is it all just a Saturday morning games?
I mean, they're going on right now.
Yep. What's it looking like?
I don't know. Have my phone flipped upside down. I'm locked in on the show.
I appreciate that. You know what?
Working hard.
Give you carte blanche. Score update me.
All right.
In a second. The second slate just started.
All right. So in terms of previewing the opponent, we know that they have a good running back. We respect the quarterback if the starter's there. Well, I've leaned on my sources. I don't know. There's a lot of people in our comments section speaking with certainty. He's definitely coming back because you think that that's what our luck is. But even if he comes back, the nature of this injury is such is they're going to be diminishing returns on that. Like, he's not going to be what he can be if he's fully healthy. He's going to have to be persevering over some physical ailments there that are going to make it hard for him to play this opponent. And Georgia Tech, one thing that we know is they are not designed to keep pace with Miami, even with Haynes King there. We saw this approach in a highly watched game in Dublin against Florida State. Their game plan, no doubt, against Miami is keep Cam Ward on the sidelines. Let's be efficient with our drives. Let's milk them as much as we can. We don't trust that defense to get stops. So the more drives there are in this game, the less of a probability we have at pulling off an upset. That is a very smart coach that they have over there. And I think that this one, provided what they get out of the quarterback, this is one of those spreads that's on the money. This is going to be one of the first times that I pick against Miami against the spread. I think Miami wins this game no matter who's there, even if it's a healthy Haynes King. But I did this twice before the year started. I looked at our schedule and I tried, and I wouldn't even classify this as a dumb one. That was before I knew that, holy cow, we'd be number 4 in the nation. It's a tough spot to play. It's a really good coach, and he knows exactly how to approach a game plan when he's a super dog. And I think for that reason, you should be worried. I do think that we caught a break, though, with this being a sleepy noon start.
Yeah, no, I agree. The offensive line for Georgia Tech concerns me. Again, Brent Key is an offensive line coach. They're number 2 in the nation in sack percentage against, meaning that's good. They allowed the least amount of sacks, number 2.
And we're struggling to get to the quarterback. Not necessarily get to the quarterback, but finish those plays.
Finish with sacks. So that's my Georgia Tech concern. While you were talking tight ends, I pulled something up. Pete,
I have it.
You got it in the comments here. We're talking about 3 potential first-round tight ends in the room. And this morning, we don't usually talk recruiting on this show, but this morning, one of my favorite players in the class, his senior highlights dropped. I don't know if you've seen this, Mike.
No,
so Mike's reaction. This is
tell me, I'm uninitiated right here. Who am I looking at?
This tight end right here is committed to Miami from Indiana.
Oh, I've heard you talk about this guy earlier in the season.
How you like that speed?
That's incredible. He looks huge, but also he looks like he's playing against 7-year-olds.
For those listeners, it's Indiana. You know, it's more of a basketball state. But if you're listening and not watching, we're watching Brock Schott's highlights here. He's catching the ball with his hands.
Whoa,
stiff-arming guys. 4.5 speed, legit. His testing numbers are comparable to Brock Bowers. I'm not saying he's that. His name is Brock, and he's about the same size and test similar.
He's a beast on defense, though, too.
Notre Dame wanted him on defense. Look at him. What do you think?
Was that a play design or
no? He was the DN on that.
Yeah. Okay.
And there you have him playing wide receiver here. Look at that. Look at that, going up and getting it.
Looks like Joel Montez in coverage there.
There's no way. Shout out to Joel in Mexico. There's no way he caught that reference. Ball skills is something that I usually look for when I look at these highlight reels because I don't really know what I'm watching. I don't know how old. I mean, look at this quarterback. He looks like he's 12 years old. But ball skills are something that you can certainly extrapolate.
Yep.
It's hard to track balls in traffic. You don't need to see that against, Central High School to know that that's some skill level there.
Yep.
No, this is a very curious prospect, and it looks like he'll fit right in.
Dominant on defense. I mean, his stats are off the charts. You see him here. A lot of clips.
That is a Corey League football team.
But he's doing supposed to look at him dominating both ways. 6'3", about 210. I seen him in person. That's about what he is. Strong. He's definitely not going to have a problem.
That offensive line's a combined weight of 300.
But look at the speed of this dude. He's running away from defenses. You talk about, again, sign a Riley Williams, sign Elijah Lofton, and, of course, developing Elijah Arroyo, who's going to go off to the pros probably this year. Then you add this guy to the picture. I think Miami, you want to be Miami of old. Part of that is making sure tight end use stays at a standard. When I saw these senior highlights drop, this is Elijah Lofton right here. Look, he's playing fullback, boom, lead block and knocking somebody on his butt. He does a lot of things. Again, he had offers from Notre Dame on defense, so the versatility is right there.
This allows me to seize on one of the criticisms for last year. We talked about briefly how people wanted Shannon Dawson fired and Lance Guidry could do no wrong. Now it's flipped. Think about Miami's tight end room last year and how little production they got out of it. Some of the names are the same, but this felt like an issue Miami wasn't going to be able to remedy. And I would say that's the benefit of having a coach like Mario Cristobal, because if you see it, he's known about it for way longer, and he's shown you that in a year he can fix it. Now, he might have fixed it indirectly by going for the quarterback. We can't ignore that that variable here. It's pretty key for these guys' development, but you see it, and availability is the best ability. That's certainly part of what's going on with Arroyo. He's healthy now, but Mario Cristobal went into the fall camp knowing the issues that this team might have had. You mentioned that they tried to get a nickel. The issues that are popping up for Miami are not a surprise. They're issues that we highlighted. If anything, probably on the wide receiver front, which was one of our chief concerns, they've shown you, going up against zone defenses especially, that they can develop that room. And they can do it with the guys that they have in-house. But you also have a sicko at that head coach position that will go out and improve the talent if the answer isn't here. And it seems as though, unlike other schools in this state, he ain't sleeping on the high school recruiting front, and his network appears to be running deep, because that is a deep pool.
Yeah, Midwest, we're doing. Look, he's from the Midwest. Brock Schott, Riley Williams, Portland, Oregon. What was the steakhouse that was shouting out?
Ringside, yeah, it was
Ringside
a boxing
steakhouse. And then you have Elijah Lawton from Las Vegas. So you're really going everywhere for these tight ends. You got another guy committed this year from Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio area, Luca Gilbert. So another top-rated 4-star tight end. So Mario's fixing that room with recruiting. And look, you've made a great point. What did we talk about tight end last year? There's always criticisms of Dawson for not using him enough, right? Why are we not doing more with the tight ends? All the coaching criticisms went away when the players improved. Cornerback, I could see it coming together in a similar way, because Riley Williams last year was young, ended up developing, and now he's getting relied on more. OJ Frederic, true freshman. He's already contributing more than Riley did last year, but he's going to be even better next year. You get a Damari Brown back, kind of like an Arroyo, very talented guy that you have not even seen because of injury. Maybe you add a true freshman, like hopefully a Ben Hanks, a Jabari Antoine who's committed, a DJ Pickett, someone along those lines.
Yeah, DJ Pickett might walk in here. Like Miami's still very much in that battle. If I'm DJ Pickett and I'm seeing how close this team is presently, I also see a pathway to playing right away.
No doubt. Both those guys, Hanks and Pickett, and Antoine, who's already committed, had a knee injury, but he's going to be ready to play.
And OJ Frederick is probably like your best recruiting pitch.
All you got to do is point to and say, this is what it is. He's only going to play one spot. There's 2 other spots that are up for grabs. So, and then again, I don't want to understate Damari Brown, because with Arroyo, he was out of sight, out of mind for a little bit. But then when he came back, you say, wow, this guy's got NFL tools. He's healthy. He's ready to go. I can see a situation with Damari where he's out of sight, out of mind. But then when he comes in and plays, you say, wow, this room looks a lot different when we have Damari, and OJ Frederick next to each other. And you say, wow, we got multiple guys that can go.
And a little inside baseball. Everybody was a little worried that FSU is going to come poach Damari Brown, given what happened with his brother. Well, his brother is also not playing that much over there. And I'm not sure he has the greatest things to say about that program. And if I'm Damari Brown, I see that there is a Damari Brown-sized hole in this defense that I would fill in quite nicely. So I actually feel better there. OJ Frederick is a guy that's now being talked about as this guy could be a first-round draft pick when it's all said and done. So a lot of great stories in terms of Miami playing impact freshmen. We just talked ad nauseum. It was a crazy amount of time that we devoted to Elijah Loft in retrospect. But these are guys that are making an impact. Jordan Lyle had his day earlier in the season. I'm pretty sure his story is not finished being written when it comes to his contributions this season. It's an exciting time. I can't really recall, even when Miami had that 2017, which was a lot of fun when it was happening, in terms of guys that are studs, that you can envision at that next level, potentially being on site at the NFL draft. That's been a long time to have that much talent on one team, next level talent. And Mario Cristobal has addressed that. Took 3 years, but that's the type of coach he is. It's a practical approach, and it wasn't sexy when FSU was attempting to microwave a dynasty, and you saw how that worked out.
Yeah, we went through it yesterday with Pete. 10 to 13 guys draftable, and that puts you in the elite category of college football playoff teams from last year. Your Michigans, your Washingtons, your Texas, Florida State, who was right outside. Those are the Alabama double-digit draft teams, and those are the teams that were in the top 5. So it fits that we would have 10 to 13 players draftable.
Guys, we've had some questions here about Damari Brown, if he's coming back this week. No. The hope is that you get him by the end of the season before the AC championship, potentially get his feet wet there. But no, that's not going to be this week.
And by the way, this is why we have the best listeners, participants in the chat in the world. Our man Johnny Lagoon, he says, guys, please don't forget the meet and greet and autograph session at the team store on Monday. He's doing our sponsorship.
Are you writing out liners for us? He's on copy. He's our traffic director.
Get paid for this, and he's doing it. By the way, I did not forget. We had the clip loaded up, but I appreciate it. So at the team store, Monday, November 11th, 6 to 7 p.m., you got Simeon Barrow Jr., one of the best defensive tackles in the ACC this year, really having an awesome year. Nye Carr, who's been playing great in practice. I'm still talking about young players waiting for that breakout. Nye Carr is going to happen soon. Him and JoJo Trader are knocking on the door. They just got real good guys in front of them. Darius Hayes, one of the stalwarts on special teams. He's played every game, played a huge, huge role on special teams. And then, of course, Jalen Rivers, left tackle, one of the leaders of the team. Great guy as well. So, look, Miami Hurricane team store right in front of campus, November 11th, Monday, 6 to 7 p.m. Get your autographs. Plus, you can get gear at the store using promo code INSIDE20, 20% off. There's a ton of stuff. We talk about the shoes, the sandals, all kinds of gear at the Miami Hurricane team store. So,
Pete, can you pull up that hot topic question that just thank you so much for your support there? I actually think it's a great question. Hot topic. Who is your ideal replacement for Dawson to be at OC if he decides to take a head coaching job next year? I know that might interest Shannon Dawson. It gets you to just another level. Once you become the business is so incestuous that you almost have to take the head coaching job if it's made available, even if it's something like Southern Miss. Yeah, you almost have to take it because it gets you at a certain place and you could always go back to OC. So hopefully that is a discussion that we have, because that means we had a very successful season and a very successful offense. I guess Shannon Dawson's a candidate for Broyles Award this year. in terms of being one of the top assistants in the country. But you asked for a hot topic, and I'll give it to you. Some of you are gonna hate this. Billy Napier. Billy Napier would be, look, he and Mario have a good relationship. If you were wondering why Mario was very complimentary of Billy Napier before that game, it wasn't just to keep Billy Napier up there as a head coach. It was because they know each other some. Alabama ties. I think to the degree that you'll follow me down this path, I think Billy Napier is solid at developing talent. I think he just limits the type of talent he can develop. Outside of DJ Lagway, he's just a 3-star poacher. So I think that would be an interesting name. If this Florida thing goes the way that we think it's going to go, I think that this would be a wonderful place for Billy Napier to start rebuilding his credibility, because I know in the eyes of many search firms, agents, other head coaches, he does command respect in terms of schematics and being able to develop individual talent. So I know that that's not going to excite a large portion of our audience, and it comes down here, he doesn't have to worry too much about recruiting. So I would say Billy Napier would be a name of interest.
I swear I did not plan this for you based on your answer. This was my answer that I had locked and loaded. Dan Mullen.
That's a good one.
So
I know he kind of wanted it.
Same concept. He's been wanting to come to Miami as the head coach.
Yeah.
Obviously, well-documented struggles with recruiting. But, I mean, I think this guy's the best play caller there is at the college level.
Wait, wow, you guys got really pissed off at that Billy Napier thing. Huh?
Yeah, they don't like that. I have one that they'll probably get upset at too. Like Dana Holgerson.
Well, he just signed on with Nebraska, right?
But that's like an analyst. You know, he's trying to get back in the mix. He's probably been having fun this year,
curious.
Enjoying himself.
I'm curious, why did Dan Mullen not receive the same kind of negative feedback than Billy Napier when they're both like the same exact guy? Only Dan Mullen has top level success as an OC, which could be a separator, but no, don't give us the failure head coach from Florida. Give us Dan Mullen.
Well, Dan Mullen at Florida did have a lot of success just based on his play calling. Now, eventually the well dried up because he didn't recruit any players, but he did have double-digit win seasons when he had the Kadarius Tonys and the Kyle Pitts of the world, made Kyle Trask look a lot better.
Trask look amazing, yeah.
And he's been giving Miami a lot of props on all of his analyst spots. So
he was very interested in this job multiple times.
He doesn't have to recruit at this position really all that much. Like you'll hop on a bird a couple times, see some kids, but Mario really takes on that responsibility. And I'm sure it's been a frustration of Mario's throughout his coaching career. I can't get this OC to recruit at my level. No one can, coach. So I think he's shown you his ability to pivot. We're doing things that are not historically aligned with his approach to football. And I think now more than ever, he's at a spot in his career where he'd entertain a Dan Mullen type. And I do think that this job would be very attractive. Other names to keep an eye on. Look, things in Cleveland aren't going great. He just got play calling duties, but he seems to be a good foil for people to put their problems on. Like Ken Dorsey's name always pops up as someone you can just fire and move on and think that fixes a problem. So that might be another name. And I know that gets a lot of people excited.
I think if you're offensive coordinator that likes to call plays, but you don't like recruiting and you want to make sure you have a good offensive line every year, because I don't care how smart you are, if your offensive line's not there, there's no offense to be had. This is a perfect spot. You don't have to worry about recruiting. You're going to get players and you're going to have a good offensive line. That puts a lot of the responsibility on you just to call plays and do what you like to do and are good at, as opposed to recruiting, sweet talking kids, building an O-line, or scheming around a bad O-line. You don't have to worry about that if you come to the Miami job. I think the image of the Miami OC job, which maybe it wasn't as hot a couple of years ago, has really elevated with what Shannon Dawson has done to have the #1 offense in the country. But Mike, look.
And I think I'm going to give you one more name. I think this name is too green to be given the reins at a school like Miami as offensive coordinator, but a familiar name that you should keep your eye on that is getting a ton of adulation nationwide for the job that he's doing under less than desirable circumstances, because he's coaching up those quarterbacks and they had a quarterback change due to performance. De'Eric King.
There you go. I like how you're thinking. Son of a coach, great leader from Miami. Of course, yeah.
Loves the program.
Jennings has improved precipitously. So,
guys, should we get to some?
We'll get to the picks right now. But look, I got to comment.
How do we like Joe Brady? We love Joe Brady. Joe Brady does not want to be in the college game.
We got to comment.
This life is not for everybody. We tried that. He took meetings. There was mutual interest there, but he wanted to stay in the pros. I can't imagine much has changed since the last time I was on that Joe Brady beat.
You're
But
on
who
that
knows?
beat.
D, your hair has changed.
Yeah, I did not say this, Mike. I did not say you were a twink. D Money in the comments is saying.
I don't think you guys know what that means. Can you remove that, please? No,
I'm sorry. I did not say it.
Yeah,
I just want to clarify. I did not say that.
Yeah,
line.
I
D-Money.
appreciate that.
There's another D Money out there
Come
in
on,
the
guys.
comments.
Wait, does this show need a moderator? What is going on?
Right.
Yeah, let's do the pick segment.
Let's get the picks.
I'll go first. What's happening in the Champions League? Ghost and Navon Donaldson gave me a PSG update.
It was 1-0 PSG from what he saw. Now it's 1-1.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'll get us going. I appreciate that screen cap there. That's going to be real fun on the message boards. I appreciate you pulling it up too.
I did not pull that up.
He pulled it up.
I want to clarify. It wasn't me. That's not me. I don't have blonde dreads.
Let's
in case
call it
anybody
even.
didn't notice.
We got the screen cap of your jacked up grill, and they'll have that screen cap. So, look, in terms of the day that I've had, it's been fine. All right, let's get into my picks.
Let's go.
You and I both like Ole Miss,
Yeah.
so let's talk about this game. I think Georgia's overrated. And I don't just say that as someone that's looking up at them in the college football playoff standings, but this is a do or die game for a really good offense. Jackson Dart looks like he's finally growing into what we thought we'd see out of that offense. Top 5 offense in the nation, home field, college football playoff eliminator. Not the same kind of stakes for Georgia, but it eliminates any margin for error that they have if they drop this game. That line in particular is the main thing that had me thinking, wait a second here. Because if that line is Georgia minus 8.5, I like Georgia's chances. But 2.5, oh, you're trying to get some action. Is this a trap? This feels like a trap. I don't think the disparity between these teams is such. Not just in talent, there's a talent disparity. Not that much, though. Talent composite ratings, Ole Miss did a lot to beef up their overall talent, especially in that portal.
Big time.
But this is a quarterback and an offense and a head coach that is not going to shy away from challenging some of the weaker aspects of that defense. They don't have the same kind of dogs in that secondary, in the front seven, that defensive line. They got pros. Let's give them their flowers. But I think Ole Miss can hang with Georgia. You get that home crowd behind you in a must-win game. You get a coach that's had kind of what I would suspect is a disappointing season for Ole Miss. Although we can debate that. I like Ole Miss here. I think it's a really good spot. And I think them winning that game, I'm rooting for it, not just because I want to take the action, but also I would love to see what that does to this college football playoff chase. That is exactly the jolt this college football playoff needs, because that is a chaos factor, my friend.
No Georgia in the playoff, a 12-team playoff, that'd be the upset of the year. This is the game that I would have, going into the season, this is the opposite of the game I would pick. I always thought Lane Kiffin teams were soft. Georgia is a perfect team to expose that kind of team. But everything you said about Georgia, I agree with. And Ole Miss has played better on defense than I thought they would. When you look at the stats as far as offense and defense, Ole Miss, just from a statistical standpoint, is maybe the best team in the country as far as offensive production and defensive production. And they have NFL talent at both of those levels, including on the defensive line, which is critically important when you're playing in the SEC. So I'm with you. I think I didn't want to believe in Ole Miss this much at this point of the year. I bet against them previously, but they're playing too well to ignore. And Georgia just hasn't shown that consistency.
That for me is consistency. Now you can seize on consistency and talk about Ole Miss, and they would have the same kind of questions that you'd have. And in retrospect, that Kentucky game, that's kind of confusing. But if we're doing transitive property, guess who gave Georgia a difficult time? Kentucky. So at certain points in the year, you just got transitive property. And I saw the time that Miami had with a healthy Florida Gators at the Swamp. And I saw the time that Georgia had in a neutral site against a very unhealthy Florida Gator team. I feel better about my chances. And I think that Georgia is a little inflated. Point being, this number showing a lot of respect to the Rebs. I like it.
No, we're on the same page. Till I get through this ACC action right here with Boston College -2.
I'm backing the coach here, Bill O'Brien. He's been subject of a lot of love in our group chat lately. But look, Syracuse showed some resiliency last week. But I just think that this is a difficult conference game. It's a war of attrition when you get into this P4 level. And I think that when it comes to schematics, tactics, and also for the fact that Tom Brenneman is calling a game with a Castellanos in at quarterback, I want to root for hearing Tom Brenneman screaming Castellanos deep drive to left field. So we're going with BC here. I wish I can get in the weeds in this one and give you some better analysis than I like the quarterback and I like the head coach. But I see the line. I look at how the seasons have gone. I like BC in this spot.
Yeah, no, I like what you're thinking. Colorado for me, -3.5. Texas Tech had the big win against Iowa State last week. I think Colorado's smelling potentially the playoff. It's just a really hot season for them. A culmination of everything they tried to build with Shador, with Travis Hunter, of course, with Deion himself. So I just think they're so close that they're really going to start to pour it on as far as getting close to their mission. You know, the draft is there, but they're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for everything that they've been trying to build. Look at Texas Tech's defense. Gave it 51 points to Abilene Christian. Gave it 37 in a loss to Washington State.
They seem to have figured it out, though, a little bit.
59 to Baylor 2 games ago. 35 to TCU. Sorry, 30.
All right, so they seem to have figured it out last week.
Against Iowa State. The thing with Iowa State is Iowa State's not an explosive offense. It's not like you don't have a Travis Hunter. You don't have a Shador Sanders. You don't have those They have good players on offense, but they win grimy games. They don't score 50. Colorado can put up points. I see Colorado putting up a lot of points in this game. I just think mentally they're in that headspace where they're going to start going for it.
That's when you speak on Colorado, I listen. You've had a pretty good feel for this football team all year. So we'll shift over to my side.
I think we were combined like 1 of 6 last week.
No, I was terrible last week. I apologize.
You were 0 for 4. I was 1 of 3.
Sometimes we got to pick 4 cards. The Navy game, look, that game got delayed by 11 hours.
You were happy for it too.
I was. That's, we come back down to earth, but you have a pretty good read on Colorado. So like I said, you speak, I listen there. Let's go to the next game on my card, which is North Texas.
It's like the 5th North Texas game you picked this year.
You want to know what's going on there? I had an online dynasty with North Texas, so I got to see this offense, that scheme, and some of the players. I'm a big Chandler Morris guy, but what I saw in my online dynasty proved to be true in that this is a potent offensive attack. This offense, I think, is 2nd in the nation, 2nd only to Miami, ahead of Lane Kiffin. Chandler Morris can spread the ball around, stretch the field, and really, I look at Army, and while they had an easy enough time against Air Force in a rivalry game, quarterback injuries scare me, especially you saw Navy totally fall off the earth when Horvath got hurt. This is a Heisman candidate in Bryson Daly. If he's hurt or diminished at any respect, when you consider the physical demand and how responsible he is for his team's output, even if he's out there, this is a difficult opponent because that opponent is going to be able to put up points on that Army defense, I think, because they put up points on everybody. This might be my put the town on alert upset play.
There you go.
5.5 points there, too. You got a nice little opportunity for a backdoor. North Texas, if you haven't watched Chandler Morris and company, it's a fun offense to watch. Do yourself a favor, sit down for them. Watch them and Navy, 2 great offenses to see. But I think North Texas wins this game straight up.
You got a good number right now on your put a town on alert, right? You're doing pretty good on those.
I'm doing pretty good, but I usually what's really carried the unit count over was winning these straight up. I had a lot. Georgia Tech. I was fading FSU money line, and that really gave me a nice little bankroll. I think it's time that we win one of these games straight up on the money line to juice that unit, the way that unit graphic looks. So let's go on the money line too with North Texas. I think that they win that game straight up.
Clemson, I've been terrible picking for or against them all year, and they were terrible last week. I was shocked at how poor they played on the lines against Louisville. Louisville pushed them around. Virginia Tech giving me the heebie-jeebies here with the injuries that they have, the uncertainty there. Clemson's going to want to redeem themselves. I don't know.
I liked Virginia Tech so much in this game 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
but the injuries, it's a huge factor. Klubnik on the road in that environment, I thought that there was a loss on this Clemson schedule. I thought it was actually more likely that it would happen this week. But you're right. All the variables surrounding the availability of these guys, for me, it's a stay away because I still have my questions about Klubnik. Yep. I'm not fully there. The line also kind of scares me.
Big one, yep.
But, yeah, it's a shame what's happened to this Virginia Tech season. Miami has so many examples between Cal and Virginia Tech where you look back and I'm like, man, that's such a bad-looking result. Even though we got the win, it sucks that we were in a close game against Cal. It sucks that we were in a close game against Virginia Tech. And what sucks the most about it is good seasons were there to be had for these programs. They have the talent, and they had mind-boggling coaching decisions. Certainly we benefited from in both those games against them, but look for them maybe next year. We've always said great indicator for the following year's success is 1-score losses. Virginia Tech's been a different case, and their head coach, who is Brent Pry, right? That's actually Brent Pry, the real Brent Pry. He may not survive this because that Hokie base is getting properly agitated. But man, it's just a bummer. It's a real bummer to see what's become of that season, especially with the injuries, because they got the talent to beat damn near anybody. They really do, as we almost lived through down here. I think you put them against an SEC team. We saw them go to overtime at Vanderbilt. That's not they played Vanderbilt better than Bama did.
Sure did.
So I think that they have the talent to beat anybody in the nation, because that's just the reality of the situation. Anybody can beat anybody, but it's unfortunate to make that argument with the teams whose season has seemingly fallen off the rails.
You might throw Florida in that mix too, right? If they beat Georgia last week with DJ Lagway, their season's going in a whole different direction potentially, even with the schedule being what it is.
Well, I don't think you can disassociate Miami's effect on their season. I think that you could look at Florida's season in a totally different light if they win that Miami game.
Oh, yeah.
And they start growing in confidence. Maybe they leave a little bit healthier. Maybe guys are back. Who knows? But that was such a huge win. We were calling it before the game, one of the most important football games in the history of the Miami program. And you had Steve Spurrier give voice to, this is one of the most important games in Florida history.
Yep.
And the reason was, if one head coach doesn't get the win to verify the proof of concept that they were on an upward trajectory, the pitfalls of being on the other side of that can be you lose your entire season. I'm not saying that's what Miami's proven to be, too talented, that if they slipped up at Florida, they'd still be in conversation for an ACC championship appearance. But with Florida in particular, it was huge to rip their heart out of their chest, because it totally nuked their season, a season in which they couldn't slip up. They had to have that game given the strength of schedule. If they had the full complement of players, I might like Florida this week, given what I've seen in recent weeks. So you like Duke. What you want to follow up that? You think that Malik Murphy performance is sustainable, do you?
Sure. We have the two basketball schools here. So I'll start with Duke then. Here's my view on Duke. They're playing NC State. CJ Bailey, we know down here, went to Chaminade, one of the winningest quarterbacks down here since his youth days. Looked awesome last week.
Love that kid coming out of high school. It felt like we really ramped up our recruiting efforts a little too late when he really sold himself on that vision over there. I don't know if he's been able to break himself of that vision, but this is a name, and you want to look in the part. I know that there's the social media conjecture about his relationship with Jeremiah Smith and all that, but this dude has become a player, and he's spreading the ball around. He's not spamming it to Concepcion. Like, if you see the box scores, Lord knows I've been checking those box scores on Casey Concepcion. Bailey's getting air yards, and he's totally distributing the ball. He's getting a much better read, and this was a player that looked absolutely lost his first start at Clemson. But Clemson was really humming on all cylinders back then, and that was his first start. That's a tough place to play. This kid is going to be a legitimate NFL prospect.
I'm with you, and I'm the biggest advocate of South Florida quarterbacks. They develop later most of the time. He is certainly an example of that. Had a kind of a weird motion coming out of high school. A lot of people weren't sold on that.
It was very weird.
He's tightened it up. The size, the athletic ability, the arm strength, the IQ, and all that stuff he's had since he was a young kid. So I went back and watched him against Stanford. I came away super impressed. It was his best game of the season last week. So why am I picking against them?
Stanford sucks, though, man. God, that team is so bad.
Stanford does suck.
They suck.
And to me, with young quarterbacks, especially when they don't have a good supporting cast around them, that's not even a Concepcion comment. It's just the North Carolina State is not a program that's humming right now like it has in the past. Duke is going to bring all kinds of pressure. They're very, very good at the deceptive pressures. Now, against Cam Ward, they had trouble doing that because Cam Ward is the best quarterback in the country, and he's the best quarterback against the blitz in the country because of how smart he is. CJ Bailey's very smart, but he's a true freshman, and he's not in a perfect situation with everything around him with his offensive line. So I think Manny's defense gets to the young quarterback. He's going to show flashes. He's going to be a very, very good player. I think this is one of the games that's in the up and down freshman year when you're a young player on a team that's not that good. I think this is going to be one of the downs. Duke wins it on defense.
And we close with my favorite play on my board. This is a 2-unit play for me. Pete, you're going to want to listen because I know you love putting multiple units on a big game. If you've watched Kansas lately, they don't have the results to show for it. Very disappointing season for the Jayhawks. They came in with a lot of expectations. Not every day that Kansas faces expectations. It actually stands to reason why they would fall and stumble in the face of those expectations, because they're Kansas. But Jalen Daniels is starting to play a little bit better. Kansas football is playing a lot better. They're hanging with really good teams. Iowa State, maybe a little fraudy too, maybe not as good as their record indicated. This is a rivalry game. It's being played at Arrowhead Stadium. I really like Kansas straight up here. I think Kansas had some tough luck, stumbled out of the gates, and now they're ascending to what their floor would have been, because this has been a real disappointing season for them. They're too good, too talented. That quarterback is too smart, too resourceful. He's going to stay within this number the entire game. One thing that I'm almost positive of is this won't be an Iowa State blowout. I think you'll be alive against this spread for the entirety of the game. Rivalry game. The line is already telling you they expect this one to be tight. I expect it to be tight, and I expect Kansas to win this one straight up. 2-unit play. Not a super dog because the line isn't big enough, but that is a straight up doggy money line winner.
I like it. Making a comeback this week, getting back on track. Pete, ready to talk wrestling? I know you are.
Yeah, man, always. Best part of the show.
All right, so I'm going to get into it first. We're keeping it Atlanta here. I think that was your theme, right, with the Atlanta, Georgia?
That's what I'm going with at least my wrestler of the week. The song's not going to reflect it, but the wrestler will. So you want to start with the wrestler?
I'll start with, I went double Atlanta. So I started with my wrestler of the week, none other than New Jack from ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. I had the privilege of seeing this guy live at the War Memorial in Fort Lauderdale numerous times,
which is reopened, by the way.
You saw that text reminded me. That's what got me thinking about it. Tell about the reopening. Did you know anything about it besides what you texted?
I knew that the Panthers, that's on the Panthers complex, and I knew that they were pumping some money into it, and I was really excited for it to return as a live venue, because we don't have a lot of venues that are like 3,400. This is real inside baseball. There's a mutual, well, not a mutual friend, but there's a friend of ours that used to love ECW back in the day, that might run another promotion right now, that I was like, oh my God, War Memorial opened up, because he was a huge ECW mark, and it was met with a lot of exclamation points and excitement. I'm hoping that we can get a wrestling show in the War Memorial, because that's one of those things on my bingo card that's missing as a lifelong mark.
Well, by the way, I don't know who you're talking about.
Tony Khan. Is it Tony Khan? There's a Tony Khan name pool. Most people
that didn't take that much to get out of you.
Most people can deduce that.
By the way, the CCW show was I got, before I get off New Jack, I don't get too far off New Jack. The CCW show.
Domino. Yeah, it was a great time
awesome
at Tank Brewery. Awesome show. Had fun. Momino is an insurance liability, though. She was spilling her beer. I'm pretty sure she thinks like it's not a work with her. Like she is shooting the entire time. She hates these people that have crossed her son. But it's a liability when you don't have ringside pads and she's just spilling beer over there because she talks with her hands, because she is very Latin. Yeah. So I think my buddy Mo took a little ringside guardrail to the kneecap over there. We got right in the action over there, but we really enjoyed it. Really good card, really good promotion, fun time out there. Some people recognized me from this and giving it love. Thank me for giving the community love. As you know, given the segment that we're doing presently, we love the wrestling. So I'm going to hope to make it, as long as I don't have a Miami Hurricanes conflict out there. It's a great event that they do monthly at Tank. Yeah,
I think maybe the next now the season's winding down, I'm definitely going to get out there.
You got to go to a bash at the Brew.
I'd be excited. No. But so, Pete, bring New Jack back. I got off track. So New Jack started his career with the tag team, the Gangstas, in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. He was cutting promos about O.J. Simpson and kind of defending him and all that. He was a heel, but Jim Cornette loved him. This guy was just a complete lunatic. He had goes to ECW, had an incident where a young jobber kind of lied about his age and his experience to get on the card. New Jack introduced him to the game, cut him open with a razor. The guy was bleeding, buckets of blood, almost died. It's called the mass transit incident. It's on YouTube, I believe. It's one of the bloodiest, most insane things ever in wrestling. They did a Vice special about it, but the kid lived, right? So he's okay.
Yeah, but it was, hard for New Jack to overcome. But New Jack never changed his character and became a super over baby face.
When I got to know him, he was a baby face. So what he would do was, at the War Memorial, he'd come in, he'd have a garbage bag full of like just stuff you could cut people open with.
The music would never stop.
This was to a young mind. I'm in 7th grade at this time. All right. This guy comes in ready to make people bleed. His face is completely scarred up. And Natural Born Killers by Dr. Dre and Ice Cube plays the entire match. It was such a surreal experience. You're seeing people get destroyed, bloody, going through tables. This guy's jumping off things, throwing through tables. He hit people with a guitar called El Kabong, an acoustic guitar. I mean, I don't know how many guitars this guy ran through because he hit one guitar per match. El Kabong to the head, but the music never stopped.
Yeah, Paulie never really cared much for royalty fees. He just let it ride.
Let it ride. It's the guy took. By the way, that song "Natural Born Killers" that could have been the song of the week. Ice Cube and Dr. Dre reuniting after an intense beef. You may have heard the diss track "No Vaseline." I know we're mixing music and wrestling, but that's what we do here. Look at this. I just pulled up the wiki on the song. They talk about Sarah Connor from Terminator, Al Collins and O.J. Simpson, Reginald Denny, the Rodney King riots, the caning in Singapore, Jeffrey Dahmer, Kurt Cobain's suicide, and psilocybin mushrooms. It was like a 90s tour de force there. Just give you the whole synopsis of the 90s in one song. So great song, great wrestler. R.I.P. passed away a couple years ago, and everybody said he was crazy. Like no one eulogized him as like a nice guy. There was like this guy was a complete nut job.
He dated Marlena for a long time too.
There's a story about that you know what I'm talking about.
I think I'm vaguely familiar, so I'm almost like hesitant that I gave you this opening.
It involves blading, but also intimacy. So Google that one.
Okay.
New Jack, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about and you're interested in any of this, Google New Jack ECW and you're going to be on like a million wormholes of just completely insane stuff. They don't do it like that anymore in the sport of professional wrestling or in polite society.
And the aforementioned Tony Khan, I think, actually took inspiration from New Jack because it was such a cool thing to hear a track play throughout a match. It's almost surreal. And I've only seen it with New Jack, and it was only replicated once very recently when Tony Khan paid God knows how much money to have the final countdown blast for like 4 full rotations during an Anarchy in the Arena match. And it was crazy fun to experience that. So it costs you a little capital on royalty fees, but I hope to see that device brought back because it takes wrestling to a whole nother level if you soundtrack it live. It's not something that we hear often. So really good pull with New Jack, and certainly very Vivman. I was a huge New Jack fan, and all he did was hit guys over the head with foreign objects. There wasn't really like he'd occasionally bust out a DDT, yeah, but there weren't really wrestling moves to him. And I thought it was the coolest thing. Yeah. Thought he was the coolest guy. I love New Jack.
You're gonna take it in a totally different direction, although also Georgia with your wrestler.
Yeah, but also a dude that if you try to pull him over, he might pull out a Glock and showed you who he is because he is Arn Anderson and all that implies. One of the great promos of Arn Anderson's illustrious promo career, and it happened when he wasn't even an active wrestler, and it totally transformed Cody Rhodes after that. At least his time in AEW was never the same. I love how they try to use him as this like Andy Reid type coach character. Not many people flourish in that. A lot of people try to force it. He excelled in it, and I hope to see him back one day. But I want to talk about the greatest enforcer in the history of professional wrestling, the enforcer, Arn Anderson. For all of Ric Flair's flair, drama, and way of being, you needed some muscle behind it for it to really stand out and pop. Ric Flair would run his mouth, and then occasionally he'd hide behind his enforcer. When I say Arn Anderson, outside of throwing up a 4 with arthritis-riddled fingers, and Arn Anderson, he's probably 24 years old in this photo that we have. Meat-boned Arn Anderson. But when I say Arn Anderson, you probably say enforcers, and you probably hold up the 4. Word association. I say Arn Anderson. What do you say?
2 moments stand out, which is the promo he cut when he couldn't wrestle anymore, giving his spot in the Horsemen. That later in the WCW era, so he wasn't even a wrestler anymore. And then the spine buster that he hit on Undertaker in the Ric Flair Undertaker, one of those underrated matches in WrestleMania history during the Undertaker streak.
It gave new life to the Undertaker's streak a little bit. Actually, you can give a lot of credit to, like, he had a match with Triple H where the streak finally became canon, became a thing. But the streak was a huge narrative for that match with Ric Flair. I'm with you. That was a great match. And that spine buster, the word that I was going to go with is spine buster, because he delivered that move better than anybody in the history of the industry, and to this day can probably deliver it better than anybody. But that is the one that I think about because he was on the shelf for a long time. I think medically retired at the time. Busts in a cameo because he's Flair's enforcer after all. And Flair needs to win a match by any means necessary. He's going to turn to the enforcer. The most pristine looking spine buster on a huge guy. Made no sense. Look, form is temporary, but class is permanent. And Arn Anderson showed that. And you want to talk about his promos. In terms of believability and sincerity, when Arn Anderson said he was going to kick your ass, you sitting at home believed it. He was intimidating because he looked like everybody's dad that you kind of feared a little bit when you went over the house. Who's this guy? He's never really around. Then he shows up one day and like, oh, God, it scares the hell out of me. Arn Anderson had that with him. And you needed those type of guys for Ric Flair to really get the most out of his character. And for my money, the greatest stable of all time, the Four Horsemen. He was really the glue that kept that whole thing together. You had the limousine rides and the jet flying and all the great stuff that Evolution borrowed from, because that's Ric Flair's character. But to have the muscle back up that mouth and to have that move set, and not to sell him short, great tag team wrestler, newest spot on the card, individual, like would tear the house down on a believable match. Nothing there acrobatic to it, but TV title elevates that TV title. Had really good programs as a single wrestler. Such a huge fan of Arn Anderson. I think of Arn Anderson. I think of back to, you remember when WCW had those wax action figures?
Oh no.
Yeah, they had like their toy line was so much worse than WWF's at the time, but they had just wax guys.
Like what you get in the aquarium?
It was basically that, because I remember there was one day I left like my desk light on and I melted Arn Anderson. And I melted Arn Anderson and I left Rick Steiner permanently disfigured. It was like I had a match on my table and Arn Anderson went over in this match, and then I got called to dinner, and then I came back and the guys were melted on my desk. Core memory for me. Thank you, Arn Anderson.
By the way, producer for John Cena in his WWE career. So he had an influence that went beyond even what he did.
He knows how to tell a story in the ring, dude. He knows how to, he was a great producer in terms, he's probably produced many memorable matches. And, you know, like anything, like these are choreographed. They go over the finish. There's some room for artistry and interpretation there. But in terms of storytelling, he's shown, and Randy Orton's really good at this too. I don't have to do those high-flying impact moves for me to suck you into the story that I'm trying to tell in the ring. He was a true artist in being able to do that. And again, hugely believable on a promo.
Now, shout out Arn Anderson. Switching gears completely, but staying in the state of Georgia, particularly the city of Atlanta, where Miami is going to go get that 10th win this weekend. I'm going with Goody Mob for my song of the week.
Great song.
Cell Therapy. One of the less is more to me with music a lot of times, especially with rap. I'm not a big fan of too much stuff going on. That's why the modern rap's just got too much going on.
Too much mumbling.
Too much atmosphere, too much mumbling, too much like filling space with like atmospheric stuff. I like space, kind of like AC/DC, right? AC/DC is, to me, top 3 rock band of all time, if not top 1, because their songs have space. There's times when nothing is happening in the song. There's literally no sound.
Too redundant of a sonic profile to be like one of the greatest.
It works every time. They've like 15 hits.
There's songs I'm like, oh, this is Thunderstruck, and it's not. It's another AC/DC song.
Another classic, probably.
Yeah.
Go sell at a stadium in Argentina, and the whole crowd sings the riff.
When you generate the formula, you can be accused of being formulaic.
They invented the formula first.
Yeah, so I'm saying I'm giving them their flowers for inventing it. But come on, top 3.
I put it for rock and roll top 3. The space in AC/DC. It's guitar, drums, and then empty space. That's what makes it hit harder, kind of like Arn Anderson, right? It's not what you do, it's what you don't do.
You're the first person to ever make that comparison.
Keep it simple, let it breathe. Goody Mob, Cell Therapy, that piano intro, that dun 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 dun. They let it linger for a while. They put a little creaks in there, and then boom, once the drums hit, a slow drum beat, it hits that much harder because they're not giving you a million sonic things at once. They're keeping it out. They're reducing.
That's why Pete and I have a fundamental disagreement when it comes to modern day hip hop. And he'll roll his eyes at my ability to tout J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar because he doesn't really feel those guys all that much.
But the thing is, I grew up with those guys. I was in high school when those guys, you know, so it's not like it's like that era is my era too. I just don't like that music.
Well, we have a fundamental disagreement. I think you sometimes have to lay out, let the art speak for itself, and too much of this mumble rap that you listen to is just 808s bunched together and producer ID.
The producing is so special.
Special. I want to talk about formulaic. And it's all derivative. It's all derivative of actual better hip hop these days. Like we're sampling songs that are like not even 2 years old these days. It just bothers me.
What's the Chance the Rapper song that we don't do the same drugs anymore?
That's another thing. All right. So you tout these guys. It's so transient. Like J. Cole has lasted the test of time. I went to a Lollapalooza in which Chance the Rapper was headlining because we gassed people up to these astronomical heights.
Horrible. I don't like his music either.
I never liked his music. I had to like, why am I here? I went there honestly because I thought Dwayne Wade might show up. Like, I went to see him. Surely this guy's from Chicago. Maybe I don't get it, and I'll get it here. And then you know what happened? Test of time. Gone and went.
You know what though?
None of these
last week
rappers
we were talking about Young Thug. I said free Young Thug, free YSL, and literally a couple days later he's free. He's a free man now. He's under probation.
I like Young Thug, but I think he does something a little bit different from the art form, and I think you can compare Future to AC/DC in that I invented the formula. Or if I didn't invent the formula,
I don't know who AC/DC is, so it's gonna be hard for me to compare there.
You don't know Thunderstruck or TNT?
He knows all.
You know TNT
is that's the one that Virginia Tech comes out to, Thunderstruck?
No,
Yeah.
no, they come out to Metallica.
Yeah, he knew that. He's why we get.
I don't know. I don't.
I'm
know
trying to get
that.
him involved, and then I think that he exposes himself as an idiot. But then he has a bunch of people in the comments that are like, "No, he speaks for me." So
MKG, Little Dicky from. By the way, what?
Oh, McG. Yeah. So if you want to watch SNL, McG is going to be the musical guest this week. Bill Burr is hosting. McG is going to be, and hopefully I'll find a way to how to pronounce his name. I'm going to be heartbroken and devastated if Bill Burr says we have MKG here. I'm like, I've said it wrong.
MK.G.
Let's stop. Let's stop for a second before we get to your song, Mike. We got a guy in the chat saying MKG. His name is Sports, and it's an ESPN logo. I guess it's ESPN. This is this like a Russian bot? Like Sports
going around these days
with the logo. Sports?
That might be Javi Salas, YouTube user.
Sports, what are you doing here? I know you're up to something. There's no way your name is Sports.
Yeah. Hey, Sports. Big fan. Big fan of sports.
How you doing, fellow kids?
Yeah.
How you doing, fellow sports fans?
My song, I either, I don't know, I'm all over the place with this. Sometimes I geo-target my music for the opponent, and Atlanta is certainly rich with great music. Outkast, the greatest hip-hop duo of all time.
UGK.
Full stop.
UGK, but go ahead.
Greatest hip-hop duo of all time. Full stop. You can love UGK. I'm not disparaging them. They can be second best, but they're not the best. Outkast is the best, and they're from the ATL. But I'm not going to go with an Atlanta act. I'm going to go with Frank Ocean, Swim Good. I mentioned this song in Hurricane, or one of the first episodes that we did. In terms of my favorite songwriters out there, I'll go Jason Isbell, which is more country, Americana, outlaw country. I'll go with Father John Misty, which is indie rock, which is probably my core discipline.
I would say outlaw country for Isbell.
That's
too much credit.
Alt country.
Okay.
Alt country. Yeah, not fair enough. And I love alt country as a genre. So I probably just misspoke there. Apologies. Thank you for seizing on it. But Frank Ocean to me is in that class when it comes to songwriting. Sometimes it's hard to follow. Sometimes you have to parse through some stuff there that you're not fully quite grasping. But Swim Good, I think I like it so much because it's so on the nose. I don't have to Google what is he trying to explain to me here. It's pretty self-evident. Swim Good, it's a song that I go to whenever I need a quick pick-me-up. It's not why you think I need a quick pick-me-up, but I listen to this song, like, honestly, I find myself listening to this like once every 2 weeks. It's such a perfectly constructed song. It's catchy. I'm not really sure. Hip-hop and popularity these days kind of lost on me. As I mentioned, Chance the Rapper headlined a Lollapalooza that I went to. We're kind of giving it away. But Frank Ocean, proper amount of respect given to this guy and his catalog. Swim Good, probably one of his more commercial efforts. Really uplifting song. If you need to be resilient in your life, people go through stuff. You never know what anybody's going through, is my ultimate point. And if you're one of those people that's going through something that doesn't necessarily wear it on themselves, this is one of those songs that you can turn to. It means a lot to me. Great artist, great songwriter, great talent, great song. So I hope you like it.
We had so many options for Atlanta, and you guys went with these two.
Well, Frank Ocean, I didn't do a geo-targeted tie. I went to a song that was speaking to me. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I play a song that I'm digging. Spodioti, go to Spodioti from Outkast if you want like a geo-targeted song.
Listen, I just wish there would have been some Pee Wee Longway in there, but one of these days. The state of Georgia has great music all around. Atlanta's turned into a great indie rock hub. There's a band by the name of Manchester Orchestra. The vocalist, Andy Hull, I believe, has other side projects. One of the better vocalists in rock that you'll hear today. I preferred him when he was fat, but then he got skinny pre-Ozempic. The voice, the pipes, still there.
Get REM from that Athens area.
Yeah.
REM is like kind of like mumble rap. Like I understand the appeal, not for me, but I'll get down to What's a Frequency, Kenneth, just like the next guy.
We got Tip. Yeah, he was a good choice. Future. I mean, we could have gone with a ton of Future songs.
Yeah, T.I. I think T.I. and Luda, because they came out in an era of hip hop that was just so strong, and you had these massive personalities running the game, from Diddy to Jay-Z to 50 Cent. They didn't really get their acclaim, but Luda, really inventive rapper, crazy kooky persona that he created for himself, not just front facing, but also in his music. He was doing things that other people weren't really doing. And T.I., I love T.I. I don't think he gets enough credit. If I were doing a music festival, I'd offer up a headlining spot to T.I. That's how good I think his catalog is. Great area, especially for hip hop. It's a dirty South. They can lay claim out when you get past New York and LA. Atlanta, for me, #1 hip hop city after the main two that weren't warring factions.
Let's see. So yeah, LA, New York,
Chicago can have a claim. Chicago's been doing some good stuff in the hip hop game. They'll always have Kanye, but they're very gospel infused with the hip hop. Some of that stuff worked out.
Right.
Aforementioned, once again, that's twice I've said aforementioned Chance the Rapper. I hope to never say that again. I'm just not a fan. Vic Mensa. That was part of the Kanye influence style in Chicago.
I guess you're right. I mean, yeah, Twista. You know, R. Kelly's more.
Twista was more of the
Chief
times.
Keef, Lil Durk.
All these littles, man.
Should we have gone? Who would you have
King
gone
Von.
with from Atlanta? Future?
Pee Wee Longway, man. Pee Wee Longway, Serve and Lean. It's a great track if you guys want to check that one out.
Text it to me. I get you. How much are all the indie rock songs you've been sending me recently on FIFA?
No.
Or are you getting chewed up in an algo?
A lot of algorithm related.
You sent me an M83 song. I'm like, this guy likes French pop now. What's going on here?
I have a versatile collection. For sure.
Anthony Gonzalez, the genius behind M83, really good, talented producer too.
The slot receiver,
great receiver for the Colts, man.
Yeah, now public servant.
He's a congressman. He's Cuban out there in the new Cuban.
Yeah, he's also the front person for M83. You didn't know that. He was a man of many talents.
2 Cuban first-round receivers for Ohio State with Gonzalez and Olave.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers to him. That was scary.
Yeah.
Really weird scene, too. Oddly beautiful. The synchronicity and the penalty flags that came cascading as Chris Olave lied lifeless on the turf.
Oddly beautiful.
It was. Football does that occasionally. There's beauty in the violence, and sometimes the violence has like really odd timing. And the synchronicity of the penalty flags. Did you guys see it happen?
Yeah, I saw it.
Did you not make the observation like, damn, that's a bad hit, but why did all those penalty flags fly in such a funny fashion?
I gotta say I didn't. I gotta get in your mindset here with the music. I gotta listen to your song of the week because you're an artistic mindset right now, philosophical. Yeah. You're like an American Beauty when the bag is flying around. That's you right now.
Yeah, it's just
you need a lot. You need a lot right now. Do you got your tooth situation? I keep looking at it. It's
I know it's ridiculous. I gotta go on film 2 episodes of Storm Sessions tomorrow, looking like a joke. But
no, you gotta fix that.
I'll earn some respect.
Put a little chiclet, like chiclet. Have it fill the gap in the meantime.
Not a bad idea. I'm gonna get made fun of by my kids. No respect, but
you can show up to the University of Miami looking like that. You really
I'll say I got in a scrap. I'll earn some respect.
Yeah, definitely don't say you chipped it on a veggie sandwich. Definitely don't do that. Make up a lie.
Thank you, everybody. Go Canes. Let's beat Georgia Tech. Get win number 10. Appreciate everybody.
Avoid the dumb one. Avoid the dumb one.
K Mills, best live show in the game, my guys. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone in the chat helping us out. Keep bringing this keep bringing the energy. Keep bringing the suggestions.
Yeah, I think I've won some people over here. Not as polarizing a chat list. Maybe the admin is keeping some comments away from me today. But I appreciate the fanfare. Thank you guys for giving me a chance.
You see the same comments I do.
Well, I appreciate the audience giving me a chance because I knew that there was maybe some polarization on the message boards. But I feel like this. At least I don't read the message boards, but I feel the warm embrace of the Canes Insight community. I think that we have given you a product here on Wednesdays that sticks out. That's a little bit different. You guys give the meat and potatoes stuff too. I really appreciated the basketball preview. It was good seeing you at the game. Briefly, before we send this thing home, your initial thoughts after that first game. More guards than Shawshank. It's back. We can shoot the ball.
It's
Active
back.
hands in the paint.
Listen, we got guys that we thought were redshirting going out there dropping 15, man. Devon Ugochukwu,
D-Money was telling me, not just in that preview pod, but at the games, like Hakeem Olajuwon gave us that guy. I'm like, Houston's pretty good at basketball. Why didn't you give him to his alma?
Well, I think they didn't want him. I think he was a guy who really fell through the cracks there. I think Baylor had offered him about a month before Miami, but just looking at the timeline and the way it worked out, I don't know if that was a committable offer. I don't know if they were, offering him like a preferred walk-on spot, but he committed to Miami and signed to Miami like the day that he was offered by Miami. So it seemed like that was his only option. But
it seems like Houston made an accident. And if I'm involved in an accident, D-Money, where's the best place to turn?
Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Real quick, Pete Divine, if there's two things that Pete loves in this world, it's wearing golf clothes and correctly pronouncing African names. And
not the two that I would have gone with.
What do you think? Pete,
I got a couple options.
Give us the point guard. Give us the point guard. Drop the name.
Devon Ugochukwu.
Perfect. Right on the nose. Just like.
But I knew that because of Leslie Ugochukwu,
yeah,
the Chelsea player who's.
You rock a hat well. I was concerned bringing D-Money a hat because there's 3 people in my life that cannot wear a hat to save their life. Chris Whittingham, who looks like a cop every time he puts one on. You saw my dad wearing a hat, and it looks completely unnatural.
He's got a good head of hair.
D-Money's got too good a lid. He doesn't wear hats often. Maybe what I'm doing. Can you put that hat on real quick? Shout out to Daly one more time.
And once he takes the hat off, he looks like a madman.
Yeah.
The hair kind of.
I mean, yeah, because he looks so normal today.
You saw how he really just made that brim real tight.
Oh yeah, no, we're not doing anything flat here, boys. We're
first time I met you, D, I was wearing a flat bill hat.
Right off.
Can you zoom in on his face? You have the ability to zoom in.
I can.
Zoom in on that beautiful smile on that hat. This is something. That does not look like my buddy D-Money right there. Oh, we're gonna give away the fact that you're not actually fixed here. Let's do it. Let's give people. What, you got to get yourself out of the way, Pete.
Yes,
you can't see the ship. The ship doesn't look that bad. That is not bad. It's not bad.
We'll go away with this here.
Let's move that microphone out of the way. Let's get that screen cap. Give the people a nice. The hat is the weirdest part of it.
Look at that HD. That's what we paid the big bucks for this studio for.
How is this lighting so good?
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Like and subscribe.
It's not the lighting. Go Canes.